Imagine for a second that you own a brick and mortar store,
Oh,
and someone walks in, right? They spend maybe 20 minutes just browsing the aisles. They fill their shopping cart to the absolute brim with your stuff, and then they walk out the front door.
just completely abandon the cart.
Yeah, they leave the cart sitting there right in the middle of the aisle and disappear down the street.
It's a nightmare scenario.
It really is.
Yeah.
But in the digital world, your potential customers are, they're doing this to you every single day.
Oh, absolutely. Every day.
You put all this effort into building a beautiful website. You create this incredibly valuable free guide, or maybe you host a webinar.
Right.
People visit the site. They download the PDF. They hand over their email address. So the interest is undeniably there.
The intent is there, yeah.
But then they take your free value and they just vanish into the digital ether. They never actually hand over their money.
And it leaves so many creators and business owners just completely baffled.
Sure.
You sit there looking at your traffic numbers and you're wondering, is my core product fundamentally flawed? Or is my pricing just entirely out of touch with the market?
Which is exactly why we're here today.
Yeah.
For you listening, we are going to solve this mystery.
Yes, we are.
Our mission in this deep dive is to show you that the problem probably isn't your offer, it's not your price, and it's definitely not your branding.
No, it's usually none of those things.
Right. So we are pulling from a really comprehensive source today called the High Converting Email Nurture Strategy for Sales Automation.
It's a great resource.
It really is. And we are going to extract the complete blueprint from it for building an automated customer journey that, actually converts. We're moving way beyond those generic, lazy, hey, just checking in emails.
Oh, I hate those.
Okay.
And that is the core thesis we have to establish right up front here. Leads, those potential customers who downloaded your freebie, they rarely go cold because your offer is bad.
Right.
They go cold because there is absolutely no strategic follow-up system in place to actually guide them.
Yeah, they're just left hanging.
Exactly. We have to stop viewing an email nurture sequence as just like a piece of tech setup.
Like a box to check.
Yeah, it isn't just a chore to cross off a marketing checklist. It's a psychological bridge.
A psychological bridge. I like that.
It's the architecture you build to walk someone from basic, passive awareness to deep trust, and finally, from trust to taking decisive action.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit. Because why are we so historically bad at following up?
That is the million-dollar question.
Right. Because so many businesses pour endless resources, time, money into lead generation.
Oh, yeah, the ads.
They run the Facebook ads, they post on social media relentlessly,
Yeah.
all just to get eyeballs on the brand.
But then what?
Exactly.
Yeah.
To me, capturing a lead without having a nurture sequence in place is kind of like going to a professional networking event, having a fantastic 20-minute chat with someone, getting their phone number, and then
just never calling them.
worse, it's like standing there staring at them from across the room for the rest of the night.
Oh my gosh, yes.
You don't text them. You don't walk back over to continue the conversation. You just stare.
That is so awkward.
Right? It is awkward, it is unproductive, and frankly, it's a little creepy.
It is. But that is exactly the dynamic you are creating digitally when you don't follow up.
Yeah.
And the reason businesses do this, honestly, is because they forget basic human psychology.
How so?
Well, people very rarely buy a high stakes or, a high ticket item on the very first touch.
That's true. I definitely don't.
Right. If we look at our own behavior, when you discover a new brand, you need time.
Yeah.
You need time to fully understand your own problem first, and then you need time to evaluate if this specific brand's solution is the one you actually trust.
So it's a process.
Exactly. What an intentional automated email sequence does is it manufactures those repeated touch points,
Ah, okay.
but it does so in a way that feels incredibly natural to the buyer. It builds familiarity steadily without requiring the business owner to sit at their laptop, manually typing out emails to hundreds of people one by one.
Which nobody has time for.
Nobody.
So if the goal is to build this intentional psychological journey, we have to start at the absolute beginning, right?
It's very beginning.
The critical moment right after they hand over their email address.
Mhm.
And the source material spends a lot of time on the welcome stage.
It does.
And I have to say, it does not hold back on how badly most people mess this up.
They really do. It's almost funny.
The standard move across almost every industry is sending a completely transactional email, like, thanks for subscribing, here is your free download.
end of email.
End of email. It's basically handing them the receipt and showing them the door.
Which is such a massive wasted opportunity.
Right.
A strategic welcome email has a much bigger job to do than just, delivering a file.
What should it be doing?
It has to acknowledge exactly why that subscriber signed up in the first place, and it absolutely must set the tone for the entire relationship moving forward.
So you're setting expectations.
Exactly. You aren't just a delivery mechanism for a PDF. You have to position yourself as a guide who actually understands their specific pain points.
The text actually gives a really compelling example of a service provider using a three-part welcome flow.
Yes, the three-part flow is brilliant.
Yeah, so email number 1 delivers the promised resource, like you'd expect, but it also explains what the subscriber is going to receive in the coming days.
To build that anticipation.
Right. Then email number 2 shares the brand's core mission, or their point of view.
Like their unique stance.
Yeah, the example in the source was this marketing company sending an email explaining why most marketing systems fail.
Right, arguing that they fail because they focus on visibility instead of conversion.
Exactly. It's a bit provocative, which is great. And then email 3 introduces a simple framework to prepare the reader for what's next.
It's a great setup.
But I do have to push back here on behalf of the listener for a second.
Okay, let's hear it.
3 welcome emails right out of the gate.
I know, it sounds like a lot.
I mean, if I sign up for a PDF, I just want the PDF. If a brand suddenly emails me 3 times in 3 days, my immediate reflex is to hit unsubscribe.
Sure.
Aren't we just going to annoy them before we even start the relationship?
That is the absolute most common fear, but if we connect this to the bigger picture,
Okay.
we have to redefine what annoying actually means in an inbox.
How do you mean?
Well, spam is annoying because it is completely irrelevant to the reader's current situation.
Right. It's just noise.
Exactly. But this 3-part welcome sequence is the exact opposite. It's designed to create immediate, profound relevance.
Relevance is the key word there.
Right. When you can articulate a subscriber's problem better than they can articulate it themselves, and you explain your unique perspective on why they've been struggling, you make them feel deeply understood.
Wow. Yeah.
You aren't spamming them. You are establishing continuity. You are giving them a concrete reason to actually want to open the educational emails that are about to follow.
So the goal of those 3 days isn't to overwhelm them. It's to basically prove that opening an email from you is actually worth their time.
Precisely. And look, if they unsubscribe because you sent them 3 highly relevant, value-driven emails,
They probably weren't your ideal customer anyway.
exactly, they were never going to buy from you. You are filtering for the people who are actually engaged with the problem you solve.
Okay, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So we've warmly welcomed them into the ecosystem.
Yep.
We've set the stage and survived that initial filter. The next step the source outlines is building buyer readiness.
The education phase.
Right, we have to educate them.
Right.
But the text warns against something called teaching without leading.
Yes.
And I read that and had to pause because it sounds totally counterintuitive.
It does, right? You'd think teaching is always good.
Exactly. But the trap here is that businesses just start blasting out generic tips and tricks. They just give away random facts.
Just a data dump.
Right. And sure, that informs the subscriber,
Yeah.
but it doesn't move them an inch closer to actually making a purchase.
Because you've positioned yourself as a free encyclopedia, not a strategic guide.
A free encyclopedia, yeah, that's a bad spot to be in.
It really is. Effective education in a sales sequence isn't just about sharing information. It is about systematically shifting mindsets.
Shifting mindsets.
Yeah, it's about reducing the specific buying resistance that is holding them back.
Right.
If you just give them, 10 random tips on how to improve their website, they might think, wow, this is great information. But they won't feel any urgency to actually hire you.
They'll just try to do it themselves and fail.
Exactly. So the source outlines 4 specific pillars or types of educational emails that actually engineer that mindset shift.
Let's break those down because the mechanics of how these work are just fascinating.
They really are.
The first one the source mentions is the insight email.
Yes.
How does that actually differ from just giving a regular tip?
Well, an insight email is designed to give the reader a completely new angle on their core problem.
Okay.
You are trying to give them an aha moment.
Like a light bulb going off.
Exactly. For instance, if you are selling a course on email marketing, you don't just send an email saying email marketing has a high ROI.
Because everyone already knows that.
Right, it's boring. Instead, you send an email explaining that their current email marketing is failing because they are sending disconnected, episodic messages rather than building a narrative.
Oh, wow.
See, you reframe the root cause of their frustration.
You are changing the entire lens through which they view their own failure.
Exactly.
That's brilliant. Then there is the second type, which is the myth-busting email.
I love this one.
I feel like this feels incredibly powerful when it's executed well.
It is so powerful because it directly challenges a deeply held but incorrect belief that your audience holds.
Wow.
A belief that is actively preventing them from buying your solution.
The source uses an e-commerce brand for this example, right?
Yeah. So a lot of store owners believe they have to offer steep, continuous discounts to increase their conversions.
Which just kills their margins.
Right. A myth-busting email would systematically break down why discounting is actually training their customers to devalue the product.
It's conditioning them to wait for a sale.
Exactly. It argues that the real issue is a lack of nurturing. So by destroying the myth, you automatically elevate your own solution, which is nurturing, as the only logical path forward.
You are essentially saving them from a bad strategy, which just builds massive authority.
You become the hero.
Okay, so the third pillar in the education phase is the process email.
Yes, because confusion is the ultimate enemy of conversion.
If they're confused, they bounce.
Always. If someone doesn't understand exactly how your solution works, they simply will not buy it.
Makes sense.
So the process email is all about step-by-step clarity.
Right.
A marketing agency could use a process email to explain the exact difference between a welcome sequence, a cart abandonment email, and a post-purchase follow-up.
So you're literally showing them how the sausage is made.
Exactly. You are showing them the mechanics of the machine. You are pulling back the curtain so they feel confident that you actually know how to execute the thing you are talking about.
You're taking this abstract promise and making it super concrete.
Exactly.
And finally, the fourth educational pillar is the story-based email.
Which is crucial because humans are fundamentally wired for narrative.
We love stories.
We process information much more effectively when it is wrapped in a story.
Right.
So a story-based email uses a real-world client scenario. You tell the story of a client who had high website traffic but terrible conversions.
The exact problem the reader has.
Exactly. You describe the frustration they felt, and then you walk through exactly how you fixed it using your specific method.
Wow.
It makes the abstract lesson tangible, relatable, and most importantly, achievable.
What's really striking to me about these four pillars, insight, myth-busting, process, and story, is that you aren't just spoon-feeding them the answer.
No, not at all.
You are carefully laying out these breadcrumbs so the reader starts connecting the dots entirely on their own.
And that is the secret engine of a high-converting sequence.
It's so subtle.
It is. Because when someone comes to their own realization that their current approach is broken, and they understand exactly why it is broken based on the insights you provided, the psychological resistance to buying practically vanishes.
They're convincing themselves.
Exactly. They realize what kind of solution is required without you ever having to aggressively force it on them. You've just gently led them to the conclusion.
Okay, so the subscriber is now fully educated.
Yep.
They are completely aware of their real problem. They have connected all the dots. Now, it is time to finally introduce your solution.
The offer stage.
The offer stage.
Yeah.
But how do you do it without suddenly sounding like a sleazy, pushy salesperson?
That is the trick.
Because dropping a really loud promotional email into the middle of this thoughtful, educational flow usually feels incredibly jarring.
It feels like a bait and switch. And this transition is exactly where the panic usually sets in for business owners.
It just frees up.
They do. They either get super aggressive way too soon, or they are so afraid of selling that they just keep sending educational emails forever.
And they completely lose the momentum they just built.
Exactly. An offer email has to feel like the natural, inevitable continuation of the conversation you've been having.
Okay, how do we do that?
To accomplish that, it must clearly and directly answer 4 essential questions for the reader.
What are they?
First, what exactly is the offer? Second, who specifically is it for?
Right.
Third, what precise problem does it solve? And fourth, what is the exact next step the reader should take?
And missing even one of those questions leaves the door open for doubt.
It creates friction.
Like if they don't know who it's for, they'll just assume it's not for them.
Right, they'll count themselves out.
And here is where the source introduces a tactic that completely flips how most people think about pitching.
Yes.
The offer shouldn't just be one email. It is a sequence within a sequence.
This is a major paradigm shift.
It really is.
Most marketers just send one buy now email, cross their fingers, and just hope for the best.
Praying for sales.
Yeah. But a single email rarely provides enough space to handle all the psychological friction of making a purchase.
The text gives this great example of a business coach selling a high-ticket strategy session.
Oh, that's a perfect example.
They don't just blast out a link to their calendar, right? It's a 3-part mini-sequence.
Right.
So email 1 introduces the strategy session, specifically as a tool to find where their sales are dropping off, which directly connects the offer to the previous educational emails.
Seamless transition.
Exactly. Then email 2 directly addresses hesitations. It clarifies exactly who the session is for and, crucially, what actually happens on the call.
Which removes the fear of the unknown.
Yes. People are terrified of getting on a Zoom call and being hard sold.
Totally.
And then email 3 introduces urgency. It reminds them that booking is closing, but it frames that urgency around the cost of staying stuck.
That phrase, the cost of staying stuck, is a vital psychological lever.
It's so powerful.
You aren't manufacturing fake countdown timer urgency.
Nobody believes those anyway.
Right, they just refresh the page and the timer resets. But here, you are simply reminding them that inaction has a real price.
Yeah.
If they don't fix this problem, they will continue to lose money, or time, or peace of mind.
It's authentic urgency.
Exactly. This 3-part offer mini-sequence is infinitely more effective because it respects the buyer's natural decision-making process.
They need time to process.
They need to hear the offer, process their objections, and then be given a compelling reason to act now rather than later.
So we have the welcome stage, the education stage, and the offer stage.
The big 3.
Let's look at exactly how this snaps together into a complete automated machine. The source provides a master blueprint that connects all of these individual pieces into a concrete 7-part structure.
Yes, and the chronological flow of this blueprint is what makes it so incredibly powerful.
Let's walk through it.
Okay, so it starts with the welcome, which is email 1.
Yeah.
Delivering the goodie and setting expectations.
Then it pivots into the education phase. So email 2 is the insight, shifting their perspective on the core problem.
Right.
Email 3 is the educational framework, giving them that step-by-step clarity.
Yep.
And email 4 is the case study, proving it works in the real world with a story.
Notice how those educational emails work together. You change how they think, you show them how it works, and you prove that it is real.
It's a 1-2-3 punch.
Exactly. That naturally tees up the pivot to the offer stage.
Right, which brings us to email 5, the offer. You're presenting your solution as the logical next step.
Yes.
Then email 6 tackles objections, answering their specific doubts head on.
Handling the friction.
And finally, email 7 applies urgency, giving them a reason to act right now. I mean, that is a 7-part masterclass in persuasion.
It really is. And what's fascinating here is how modern technology transforms this psychological framework from just a neat idea into a scalable business asset.
Yeah, the tech is amazing now.
Platforms like ConvertKit, ActiveCampaign, or Klaviyo, they take this exact 7-part sequence and they trigger it automatically. Literally. The moment someone downloads your guide or fills out a form on your website, this machine wakes up and starts running in the background.
It allows a tiny team, or even just a solo creator, to nurture thousands of leads with the exact same care and structure of a one-on-one conversation.
You are scaling your structure, not just your volume.
That's a great way to put it.
You aren't just shouting louder at a larger crowd of people. You are personally guiding thousands of individuals through a meticulously designed psychological path.
Now, we all know open rates and click-through rates are essentially vanity metrics when it comes to the actual bottom line.
Oh, for sure.
If you have a 60% open rate but 0 products sold, the sequence is failing.
Completely failing.
But the source argues these metrics are actually crucial diagnostic tools for the person listening right now who is, looking at their dashboard.
Yes, they are very useful for that.
So how do we use these numbers to figure out if this beautifully structured sequence is actually working?
You have to read the subscriber's behavior, kind of like a doctor reading a diagnostic chart.
Okay, give me an example.
Well, the ultimate measure of success is always revenue and meaningful action.
Of course.
But when those aren't happening, the vanity metrics tell you exactly where the psychological bridge collapsed.
Oh, I see.
If your subscribers stop engaging right after that first welcome email, your subsequent content is likely boring, or it just isn't relevant to the problem they want to solve.
You failed to hook them.
Exactly. You lost them at hello.
But what if the engagement is great early on, but then it drops off later? Like, what does that mean?
If they are opening and clicking through all your education emails, meaning they absolutely love learning from you,
Right.
but they completely ignore the offer emails, that tells you something entirely different.
What's the diagnosis there?
It means your transition was too weak or it was just too abrupt. You either didn't connect the education to the solution clearly enough, or you simply haven't built enough trust to actually ask for the sale.
You're still stuck in the friend zone.
Exactly. You are still seen as a free encyclopedia, not a paid guide.
That is incredibly actionable. So you don't just scrap the entire 7-part sequence in frustration.
No, please don't do that.
You look at the metrics, you find the exact email where the leak is happening, and you patch it.
Exactly.
But the golden rule the source emphasizes is that structure must come before optimization.
Yes, this is so important.
You can't A/B test a sequence that doesn't exist, or one that is just a jumbled mess of random disconnected messages.
Intention and structure are the bedrock.
Yeah.
You can tweak subject lines, you can play with button colors, and adjust send times later.
That's all secondary.
Right. But the psychological journey, moving from welcome to education to offer, that has to be fundamentally sound first.
This has been an incredibly eye-opening breakdown.
It's a lot to process, but it's so valuable.
It is. So, to summarize the core takeaway from everything we've unpacked today,
Yeah, let's bring it home.
an automated email nurture sequence is not just a digital convenience.
Yeah.
It is not just a newsletter you blast out when you happen to feel inspired.
Please don't do that either.
Right. It is a foundational sales system. It is the invisible engine that turns fleeting, top-of-funnel attention into deep trust, and ultimately turns that trust into sustainable revenue.
And it achieves that by fundamentally respecting the consumer.
Yes.
The source material points out that a good sequence works because it mirrors how human beings actually make buying decisions.
Much is our nature.
Right. People rarely go from total stranger to confident buyer in a single leap.
Very true.
They need context, they require trust, and they need a compelling, logical reason to act.
Which brings us to a final thought for you to take away. Think about the email inbox itself.
It's a sacred space.
It really is. In our hyper-connected digital world, a person's inbox is arguably one of the most intimate, heavily guarded digital spaces they own. It is where they get messages from their boss, their bank, and their family. When someone gives you their email address, they are quite literally inviting you into their private digital living room.
That's a huge privilege.
So open up your own outbox or review the automated follow-ups you currently have in place. Are you behaving like a respectful, invited guest who adds value to the room before asking for a favor?
I love that analogy.
Or are you bursting through the front door, shouting a sales pitch, and wondering why you keep getting kicked out?
It's a tough question to ask yourself.
It is. The pacing of your automation reveals exactly how much you respect your customers' time. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. It is officially time to rethink those automated journeys.